Slaughter daughter, the badass bitch. As you were.
On?
Hello. Hey,
Hello.
everybody.
How you
Welcome
doing?
to the Slaughter Daughter House. I am your host, Kelly Slaughter Daughter Remus. And with me here, this guy over here is my dad.
Oh, this guy. This guy. Oh, me.
Sarge,
Yeah, that's
you.
me.
How you doing, Dad?
I'm doing good. How have you been?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm kind of feeling my allergies a little bit. I can
Yeah,
feel it in my throat starting.
yeah,
No fun, no fun. But it's that time of the year where everything's green.
yeah. I had to put my glasses on because, well, maybe it's awfully bright in here, so I thought I would. I'll just leave. I'll wear these. Okay. All right. Okay. Where are we at? What are we doing?
So we are live,
Live. Oh my God.
streaming live,
I'm getting
and we
nervous
are going to
now.
be talking about your years in the AWA.
Wow.
And you actually were in the AWA twice.
Uh,
So
3 times.
three times.
Right.
So in the 70s and then in the 80s and 90s, right?
Right. Right. Yeah, I started there. That's where I started my training. And then I left and I came back, and then I left and I came back. And then eventually I ended up going off to the WWE, or actually it was the WWF when Vince McMahon Sr. owned it, 1979. That's when I first went there. But had a lot of good times, and that's where we lived. That's where you were born. You and your sister were born in Minnesota.
Yes.
So
Good
before we
old
go,
Minnesota.
yeah, Minnesota. Before I go
Well,
too much further, I'd like to throw out something.
yes.
I might. Uh,
Okay.
Sunday at 1:30 at the Minnetonka Event Center. They're having a memorial for one of my classmates, Jim Ungerman. And if any classmates might be listening to this and they're in Minnesota, this Sunday they're having a memorial for Jim. He passed away on December 26th of this past year. So they're having a big memorial for him. I was trying to get there, but contractual problems. I'm not able to be there. But I'm going to talk to his son, Tim, probably tomorrow or Friday, and we're going to talk all about Jim and what it was like to be friends with Jim and be a classmate with Jim. And I knew Janice, his wife, and I knew his brother John, Jim's brother John, Tim's uncle John. We played football together. But Jim and I were on the wrestling team, and I think he was a 103 pounder. And there was a kid by the name of Klein. I think it was, I'm not sure, Michael Klein, or I don't remember his name, but we were all huge wrestling fans, which was the AWA. And so before the coach would come in, we'd had a lookout, and we'd have professional wrestling matches. And Klein and I would team up, and we would go against Kit Greer, who was the 175 pounder, and Jimmy Ungerman was the 103 pounder. So we would have matches just like we'd watch on television. This is in high school, and all the time that we would wrestle these matches, we never knew what we were doing. We just kind of pretended what we saw on television, and Jim would always pin me. Can you believe that? 103-pounder pinning me. I was a heavyweight.
That's yeah.
So I
I
was
just
already
had to
doing
have Rudy
favors.
come in and bring me my mouse.
Oh, so I was doing favors way
Thanks.
back in high school wrestling. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out. If anybody did know about it, hopefully now they'll know and tell other people that may have known Jimmy and want to go to his memorial service. It's in Minnetonka, Minnesota, and it's at the Minnetonka Event Center. So I just wanted to throw that out before we got into too much. God bless
Well,
you,
I just
Jim.
wanted to take a
Rest in peace.
yes. Rest in peace. And
Oh,
you pinned
space.
my dad a few times. That's pretty impressive. And I'm sure they're looking forward to hearing all your stories, Dad.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I just wanted to take a quick look at the chat really quick before we get too far along here. And so here we have Peppermint Oil Capsule, which is Spacey, Space Commander,
Mm-hmm.
giving us best wishes, and he's going to check the replay. Zazel's here saying
Hey,
hello and good morning all the way from Australia. He said, Yo, Joe.
yo, Joe.
Dale is here. Brian's here. Walter's here. Thank you for the happy birthday. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I had a wonderful, wonderful time. Um, it was a very, very fun up at the slaughterhouse, actually. You were so kind, Dad, to let me Jonathan is here to let oh my goodness, my cat just Boo literally just climbed the wall. She,
Big cat.
she's going crazy right now. Oh Lord. Oh my goodness. Okay. So anyway, hi. Hello. Hey Tracy. Hey Anthony. Thanks for subbing. I appreciate that. Robert is here. Let's see. We have Russell. Glory is here.
Russell. Hey, Russell. Russell's expecting, his wife's expecting, I believe, another baby, if I'm not mistaken. What's
Oh,
up, Russell?
Glory is here. Cole
Gloria.
is here.
All right. Cole Hanson. Hey, guys.
Miles. Hey Miles. How you doing? Uh-oh. Michael.
He needs
Michael.
to be Cobra Clutch, he said it.
He needs to be Cobra clutched.
Next time he comes
Did
to
not take.
Lexington.
You didn't take
wait.
the time.
You didn't come to Lexington when I was there. Well, you're just going to have to jump in your car or get on a plane or a boat or a train and come get a Cobra Clutch. That's all. That's all I can tell you.
But Dad, I think what he's saying is he was there. He
Oh,
was there and he didn't take the time to
oh,
come and meet you.
oh. Well,
So
then you
next
have to
time,
do
Michael, you're going to have to take the
push-ups.
time.
Push-ups for him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Aaron says his first introduction to you was Christmas of 1986 when I got your figure with the triple T.
That was the first year. Yeah. Triple T
Yes.
Cat
Oh,
Cave.
hey, Ed. Ed
Ed
Valinsky's
Holinsky.
here.
Oh my gosh. You know who Ed Holinsky is? He worked for the WWF, WWF actually, then the WWF, then WWE. Good friend. Good friend. And I do a lot of things with him up in Syracuse, New York, and that area. And we'll work on possibly doing a possible movie. And I got a cameo possibility on that. Waiting for my booking agent, Paul Inserto, to get back from the Dominican Republic. He's going to be with me this weekend in Fayetteville for a day, and then he's got to go off and be with the Rolling Stones. They're starting up their tour. So the Stones, yeah. So
Nice.
That'll be fun.
Nice.
He's invited me to go to the Stones concert. I believe it's either in Atlanta or Jacksonville. I can't
Anna,
remember.
Jackson, I can't remember.
Derek.
Tina's here. Hey, Tina.
Hi,
How are you?
Tina.
Tina,
Tina is
Hi.
um Tina is Derek's brother's ex. His baby mama. Hey Tina, how are you? Stacy says thanks for spending time with us. Trisha's here. Jonathan's here. We've got Dan
Dan.
here.
Hey, Dan.
hey there.
How's everything? Don't don't ever let your dingle dangle dangle in the dirt. Don't ever let your dingle dangle dingle up the skirt. Don't ever let your dingle. That's a song his father taught us, and he used to dance around the room with it. That was pretty cool. Joyce, how are you, Joyce? Looking forward to St. Louis seeing you again.
So Daniel wants to know if I am joining you for Nickel City Con this year. Dad, am I joining you? When is it? Where is it?
That's in Buffalo, I believe, and I'm not sure. We'll have to look at your schedule and see if you can come by. See if you can come by for a couple of days. It's really a really good Comic Con. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it the last few years I've been there, and just wonderful people up in the Upper New York, up in that area. North Dakota. Yes, I enjoyed beating up Pat Patterson too, and I think he enjoyed beating me up. Almost bled to death.
Yeah, that was a quite the match. Quite the match.
Sure was.
I am just going through these because I know I want to get started here. I don't want to keep people waiting that have been here that want to hear your stories, Dad, because you have some great stories.
Yeah.
I do see people asking questions, and I love that you guys are asking questions, and I will get to some of them. I do want to focus on his years in the AWA. Um, it just makes it easier that way. Then it's like categorized on the channel, and like if people need to look at something, it's there, instead of just being like all over the place. Um, so I do see everyone. I see you. I see you. And thank you so much for being here.
Also,
Um,
yeah,
yes.
it's
End
coming
of
up.
June.
End of
Let's
June.
go. I know Ed says he knows places, Dad.
All right. If Ed knows places,
Danny wants to know how
those are good places.
Danny
How was
wants
your
to know how my
Spartan?
Spartan race was.
Yeah,
My
how did that?
Spartan race was awesome. I was really worried about it going in because I have a torn meniscus and I have a shoulder injury, and so I was really quite worried about it. Um, but I was really this close to rescheduling my race, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. Like, just do it, you know. And if I can't do an obstacle, I'll just do the penalty and move on. So I did it, and I'm glad I did. And there was monkey bars, which is usually a pretty easy obstacle for me, and they're not spaced like the same distance. Like some of them are really close together, some of them are really far apart. And I was hanging there, and it was kind of far. And I was like, if I don't make it and I fall, I can fall wrong and like really hurt my knee, or I can just do a controlled fall right now and not hurt myself. So that's what I did. Um, but otherwise, I did great. I did all the men's weights. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do all the men's weights. I was able to do the men's weights. I walked up to the Hercules hoist, which is towards the end. And I wish my friend had been doing a video because I went up and I like did it so fast. And I did it so much faster than the two guys that were next to me that had been there when I walked up. And they like both stopped and looked at me. And I was like, what's up? Just doing it. But you know, they can probably do every single obstacle. I can't do every single obstacle. So they were probably a lot more fatigued than I was at that point, but it still made me kind of be like, that's right.
We're proud
All
of
right. Anyway, so it was good and I'm glad I did it. And I shaved an hour off of our time and I didn't even run because I was worried about my knee. And so it was amazing. Lance, you haven't missed anything. We haven't started yet. We're just saying hey to the chat. So that brings me to Clint McCoy. Hey, Clint, thanks for joining us. He wants to know good stories of pulling a ribbed or getting ribbed in the AWA.
Oh, there was always ribs going on, especially with Pat Patterson around. But I actually have to go back kind of to set a few things up real quickly. That, I grew up in Minnesota, watched wrestling. AWA was the channel that we watched, the wrestling that we watched. And there was a wrestler that I always liked, and his name was Joe Scarpello, Jumping Joe Scarpello. He was from Omaha, Nebraska, and he was the best wrestler. And so one day, my dad and I, my mother, and my sister were at the Minneapolis airport, and we're waiting for my aunt to come off an airplane. And back then, you could go right up to the gate and wait for your people to leave or to arrive. So while we're waiting for my aunt, here comes Joe Scarpello off another plane. And my dad, I think I was probably about 4 or 5 years old, maybe a little older. And my dad said, "Hey, Bobby, look, there's Jumping Joe Scarpello." And I went, "Oh my God." I was like, I can't believe it's Jumping Joe Scarpello. So my dad said, go over and ask him for an autograph. I said, "No, I'm not going over there." So my dad took me by my hand and he said, "Hey, Joe." And Joe, all tanned up and beautiful looking jacket on. And he said, yeah, he was, recognized. And he said, "My son Bobby wanted to get your autograph." I said, "Oh, that'd be fine." So he said, "What's your name?" I said, "Bobby." I didn't, I was so nervous and scared. And so he signs my autograph and he said, "So, Bobby, why don't you carry my bag to my car and help me out?" And I said, "Okay." And my dad said, "Yeah, go ahead." So I carried, my dad goes with, and we go out. And I'll never forget Jumping Joe Scarpello had this guy waiting for him, and it was a beautiful white Cadillac with the big fins on the back. And so Jumping Joe, I put the bags in the trunk, and as I closed the trunk, he said, "So tell me, Bobby, what are you going to be when you get big?" I said, "Policeman." And he goes, "A policeman?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I don't know." I said, "A fireman." He said, "Fireman? I don't know. I think you're going to be a wrestler." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, I think you are." So uh, years went by, and I won't go into the whole training session, but I made it through to the beginning of the training, and Billy Robinson and Vergagna had to leave for 4 weeks. I think it was almost 5 weeks to go to Japan on a tour. So Vergagna and Billy Robinson gave us a piece of paper, and I was ahead of it. There was like, at this time, probably about 14 of us still in the camp. 30, I think 63 started, and only 18 of us were left. So we go indoors now because we went out from the barn because it was too cold. So we went into the Minneapolis Armory, and so we're waiting for our new trainers to come in. And here comes a guy, and I recognize him. His name was Jack Pesic, and Jack was a really nice, jovial guy. But I remembered him being a wrestler. And of course, he was aged. He kind of retired, and so he worked out with us. And so he's got the sheet. I hand him the sheet, And he said, what are these squats? So Hindu squats, we started doing these Hindu squats, 50 at a time. Then we would break a little bit, and then we would do some other things, and then do 50 more Hindu squats. And Jack said, well, hey, hang on a second. He had a pencil around his ear, above his ear, and he took the piece of paper and he said, I think it's a typographical error. And he crosses out one of the zeros. We're supposed to do 500 squats. And he crosses it out and he said, typographical error. We're only doing 50. Really? Oh, okay. So now the next thing we do, like 500 or something else, typographical error. So the whole day goes by, and all Jack wanted to do was teach us how to be professional wrestlers. He didn't want to do the exercising and all that because he'd already been through all that kind of stuff. So anyway, the end of the day comes, and another guy, trainer, shows up. And I look, and I couldn't believe who I saw coming in the door. It was Jumpin' Joe Scarpello. The guy that told me that I was going to be a professional wrestler is walking in the door to train me. So I didn't say anything, and he was training us. And he loved to do a fireman's carry. So he said, anybody know how to do a fireman's carry? I said, I do. I did it. And he went, that was a beautiful fireman's carry. Show me that again. So I did another one. He said, oh, you guys watch. What's your name? I said, Bob. He said, you guys watch Bob do a fireman's carry. That's the professional best way I've ever. In fact, I think it's better than the one I do, he said. So we go through the whole day, and we end up getting ready to go. And he said, excuse me, do you have a car? I said, well, I got a truck, because I was roofing at the time with my dad. So I said, well, I got a truck. He said, well, could you drop me off at the YMCA on your way home? And I said, well, I usually stop at the gym before I go home. He said, well, you mind if I go with you? I said, no. So we work out a little bit, go to the pool, go in the sauna room. And finally, we're sitting there cooling off. And I said, Joe, I got to tell you something. And he said, what is it? I said, I met you years and years ago. And he said, where? And I said, the Minneapolis airport. And he went, you're the kid I said is going to be a professional wrestler. And I said, yeah, that was me. And he goes, oh my God, I can't believe it. Now, when I first saw Joe, when I was 5 years old, Joe looked like a goddess. I mean, he was incredibly.
A god, you mean? He
A
looks
god,
like
a god. I mean,
yeah.
he was chiseled.
Oh, you said an Adonis. I thought you said a
God,
goddess, and I was like,
no,
I think you meant a god.
no, Adonis.
Okay, sorry.
Adonis.
Continue.
So anyway, and he was all tan and all that. So now I see Joe, and he's in probably his early 60s, maybe late 50s, and he's retired. Not really completely retired, but just doing it part time. And Joe is now about 5'7" at the most. He wasn't any taller than my father. My father was 5'7", and just didn't look like the same guy. So it was really an awakening for me to see my hero, in that. And said I always kept that. That always was in my mind of when I was a professional wrestler, to stay in shape and be careful not to get hurt, and save my money, all those types of things. But I just wanted to share that story, because when I came back one time to wrestle on a Christmas vacation, I didn't come back to wrestle. I was on Christmas vacation. We were back in Minneapolis, Eden Prairie. And Virginia called up and said, can you go to Omaha to wrestle? And I said, yeah, I'll talk to Diane. And she said, yeah, you're going to be home the same night? Yeah. So I drove there, got there, walked in the dressing room, and I looked at who I'm wrestling. And I'm wrestling Jumpin' Joe Scarpello. And I said, oh, no. I can't do it. There's no way. I don't want to beat Joe. I don't want to hurt him. I don't want to. And so anyway,
Well, because how old was he at this time now that you're wrestling him?
he's probably in his 60s, and just doing, a favor like I was doing, just to pick up a few bucks because he lived in Omaha. So
Gotcha.
we were the first match, and we had a 10-minute time limit. And of course, they were expecting me to win and get my hand raised, but there's no way. So I did everything I could not to beat Joe. Even when I covered him, if he didn't quite kick out, I lifted up. I didn't want to pin him. So finally, the referee, George Gadasky, is going, "All right, Bob, there's 5 minutes to go. You better take it home." Okay, 4 minutes to go. Come on, let's go. And okay, come on, Bob, it's 3 minutes to go. And Bonnie got down to 30 seconds, and he said, "You better pin him, or Vern's gonna be awfully mad."
You're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah. So I ended up where we got into a predicament, and the bell rang, and it was a 10-minute draw, and nobody was expecting that, So we both get our hand raised, and I go back to the dressing room, and George Gadasky's in my ear the whole way. You're in trouble. You're in big trouble. You are in big trouble. When Vern Gagne finds out that you couldn't beat that guy, Jumping Joe Scarpello. I mean, come on, Jesus, you're ruining your career. I said, "Don't worry about it, George. Don't worry about it." So I get showered, get ready to leave so I can drive back to Eden Prairie, Minnesota. And out through the back door, there's a knock, and I open up the door, and there's Joe. And he bear hugs. I'm starting to tear up. He bear hugs me, and he goes, "Thank you. Thank you so much. You didn't have to do that." And I said, "Do what?" And he said, "You didn't have to. You could have beat me anytime you wanted to." I said, "What are you talking about? I was lucky to not get beat by you." He said, "No, come on. So he said, "This is where I live, and all my family. They were out in the audience, and they can't believe that, I didn't get beat up and lose the match. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for doing that favor for me." And I said, "Not a problem, Joe. Not a problem. I'll see you down the road." So I just wanted to share that story. If anybody knew
Oh,
Joe
that's a good
Scarpello,
story.
yeah, that's part of my
I've heard
AWA.
that story,
You have.
of course.
Oh,
I've heard all of your stories.
you have. I thought I had
Well,
one
maybe
today.
not all of them, but I've heard a lot of them. But I like that story because it's
Yeah,
like it's this whole full circle moment. It's the guy that you were his fan and you met him, and you know what I mean? He said that you're going to be a wrestler, and
yeah,
it actually kind of reminds me of that story you told me about Bray Wyatt,
yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
that like full circle moment for him too,
Right.
with meeting you. And so it just that's such a good story, Dad. I love that story.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, uh, the AWA, I started there as Bob Remus, and then when I graduated from the training camp, I went out to Vancouver and started my beautiful Bobby. And of course, that didn't last too long. And then I went down to Portland, Oregon, and became Bruiser Bob. And then I always had the Slaughter name. I use that name Slaughter. I didn't know how to use it. I would go with Bob Slaughter. So then it was time to go back to Minnesota, and I went down to Louisiana as Bob Slaughter. And I still had some long hair, but it wasn't blonde anymore. It was brownish, and I wore some different colored tights, but mostly black. And then that's when we got the call about your grandma being sick with cancer, and that's when I came back, and that was before Sgt Slaughter was created in 1975, 74, 75. So I spent a lot of time back and forth in the AWA, and then while I was back taking care of the roofing company, that's when Vern Gagne came to me, the owner of the AWA, and said, "Bob, there's a guy in Hawaii that wants you to wants a mask man. Are you able to go over for 6 weeks?" I said, "Well, I'd love to, but I've never wore a mask." And he said, "Well, it's nothing. It'd be a good experience for you." I said, "Well, I'm running the roofing company. I don't know." So then I talked to my mother and father about it, and my mother said, "Go. I'm not leaving yet. I just found out, so you should go if you can go." So of course I went over there and wrestled under a mask as the executioner, and wrestled a lot with Rick Martel over there, and that's what we would usually call a night off when two guys like Rick and I would have a match. It was such a fun match, and he was the ultimate good guy, and I was wearing the mask, and I was the ultimate bad guy, and we had him rocking and roll. That's when I came back, and Vern Gagne said, "What's this I hear? You're the greatest masked man of all time." I said, "Well, I don't know about that." He said, "Well, if Ed Francis said you are, you are." I said, "Well, okay, if Ed says that, I appreciate it." He said, "Well, I got this idea," and that's kind of where Super Destroyer came in, because Vern wasn't happy with Don Jardine, who was the original Super Destroyer. And that's when I met Lord Alfred Hayes and Pat Patterson, and of course Louis Dondero, and all the talent there that was Nick Bockwinkel, Bobby Heenan, Jesse the Body Ventura, and Adrian Adonis, and just great talent, and a lot of local guys. Jim Brunzell, great Gagne, and Campatera, some great talent. The Iron Sheik was kind of in and out of there. He wasn't quite the Iron Sheik yet. And then we ended up
Dad,
meeting.
there was a question in here earlier and I don't want to look for it. Did you ever wrestle Kurt Henning's dad?
Oh, many times, many times. We were, we were. I was a Super Destroyer Mark II, and Lord Alfred Hayes was my manager. So we got into a phase in our program where we started doing arm wrestling. Because I always used to see, Lord Alfred Hayes said, "My man, Super Destroyer Mark II, is the strongest man from Gibraltar," and blah, blah, blah. So Larry Henning, the Axe, called him the Axe. And he said, "Well, if he's so tough, how about an arm wrestling match?" So we'd start doing arm wrestling matches. And so we were up in Duluth, Minnesota. And I put all these different clothes on, not on top of my wrestling gear. And so we would go out to the ring, and they put a table out there, and there'd be a referee who would start the arm wrestling match. So we would kind of dance around, and Alfred Hayes and I would have a good time with Larry, because Larry was a very impatient man, to say the least. So I would sit down and put my arm up, and Larry would grab my arm, and all of a sudden Lord Alfred Hayes would say, "Super Destroyer," and I, "Excuse me, Larry." My manager, the Lord, wants. I'd say, "Yes, your lordship." And he'd come over and he said, "Why don't you take your jacket off?" So I took my jacket off, and I said, "Yeah, you're right." So I go over and put my arm up. Larry just about grabbed my hand. "Excuse me, Lord Alfred Hayes again. Super Destroyer, please. Mark II." And he'd say, "I think you should take that other jacket off," because I had like 6 jackets on. So long story short, after about 20 minutes of this, Larry finally had enough. He said, sit your ass down in that damn chair. Let's get this damn thing over with. I want to get home. So I said, okay, we had enough fun. We used to drive poor Larry crazy, but I would be, under a mask, and the promoter up at Duluth, Harvey Solon, would play little ribs. This is one of the ribs we were answering. Somebody wanted to know all about the ribs in AWA. So I'm getting ready to arm wrestle Larry for real now. And all of a sudden, they're on the loudspeaker, Bob Remus, telephone call for Bob Remus. And I'm like, what in the hell? I'm getting ready to do an arm wrestling contest, and the promoter's telling everybody my real name and saying I have a phone call. And I'm going, and Lord Alfred Hayes is like, Matthew, is that what in the world? And so we just had a lot of fun. But Harvey, that was his big joke, was always yell out my real name. Or sometimes he'd go, Bob Remus, your car's double parked in the parking lot. Will you get up and go move it? And I'm in the ring wrestling, I said, are they going to tow it? Lord, are they going to tow my car? No, they're just playing a joke on it. Okay. So anyway, that was kind of the fun times, some of the fun ribs. I was golfing one time. We always went golfing. Pat Patterson, myself, Lord Alfred Hayes, Nick Bockwinkel, Bobby Heenan, Jack Lanza, and we always had like two foursomes. Bob Orton Jr. and everybody loved to golf, and so I'm getting ready to hit my ball off the tee, and as I'm concentrating, and I go to pull my club back, Pat Patterson comes up because I had a pair of shorts on that were made for athletic use. The lighter the better, and he pulled my pants down to my ankle. And I didn't stop. I continued, and I hit the ball about 280 right down the middle, and turned to everybody, and I pulled my pants up, and I said, let's see you beat that one. And so, but we used to always have lots of fun trips going around the country and golfing. And one time we rented a Winnebago up in, I think it was in Wisconsin, near our lake cabin. And there's like 8 of us in the Winnebago, and we went golfing at Voyager Village up there, which I was a member of. And we kind of lost track of time and where we were. By the time we got to the arena, it had already started. The matches had already started. We got half the show in the Winnebago. So Nick Bockwinkel goes, all right, we're running a little late here, guys. So you're scheduled to be wrestling tonight on the card. So why don't you throw him out of the Winnebago and you come out after him and wrestle right into the building to let us all get around the corner and get into the dressing room. So that's what we did. We were having this big powwow and battle royal outside the Winnebago, and all the fans were watching. What in the world is going on? They're wrestling. It was crazy. It was funny as heck to do those kind of things. That's what it was. It was having a good time.
You had to keep yourselves laughing.
Oh yeah.
Being on the road for so long and being away from your families, and I'm sure it was you entertained yourselves where you could.
Yeah, we did. And Jimmy Johnson, of course, was our driver. Jimmy Johnson from Wisconsin. My cousin Jimmy. He was
Oh
always
my,
he drove the Winnebago.
he was driving it?
Yeah, he drove it because he wasn't a drinker, too much of a drinker. So we would, after the matches or whatever, we'd all sit in the back, play cards, and he would drive. He would drive to Winnebago for us. You know, fun times, fun times.
Nice. Dad, where is it? Henry was asking, do you think if Vince Sr. never stole talent away from the AWA, would they have gone on longer than it did? Would it have gone on longer than it did?
It wasn't Vince Sr., it was Vincent Kennedy that took a lot of the talent from the Minneapolis. Of course, then it came back to haunt him, and WCW stole all his talent. Ted Turner. So, yeah, I really believe the AWA and Vern Gagne had a great company, and Greg Gagne, of course, and the whole family, wonderful people, and they had a tremendous what we call the territory, where you were pretty much home every night, and you only wrestled at the most 15 times in the wintertime, and in the summer you were off pretty much. You probably maybe had 8 matches, but Vern paid very well, and it drew good money. And at one time, there was guys like Pedro Morales in the opening match, who was a WWF champion at one time, and he's in the AWA wrestling first matches, opening matches. So we had a lot of great talent there. And of course, Tito Santana came in, and I was so lucky to lock up with Tito and wrestle him every night. And he just had it going. He just knew what he had to do, and it was just a pleasure to wrestle with Tito. But yeah, it just got to where I don't know if they couldn't keep up with the Joneses or what happened, but they held out as long as they could, and they finally had to sell it out. I think they sold the rights to somebody, or somebody probably stole the rights, and were running shows, around the Minneapolis, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Dakotas, for a while. It was like an independent league. But the AWA at one time was like the second or third largest wrestling organization, and that's where you really wanted to wrestle. I just happened to be fortunate to have trained there and started there, and learned a lot of good, and so I learned a lot of my early career there, and I was blessed. I really was blessed.
So when did you end up leaving the AWA?
Uh,
First time.
well, the first time I went to Vancouver, Canada. It was beautiful, Bobby.
Mhm.
Then I came back, and then I went down to Louisiana, came back when your grandmother got sick, and then I just kind of was there. And then I came up with Sgt Slaughter one day when it was raining, as everybody probably saw on the bio show, that the biography, that I came up with the Sgt Slaughter idea because it was raining and we couldn't roof. So I got home where your mother and I were living in a duplex, and of course we didn't have remotes or anything like that. So I just pulled the knob on the TV, and first thing I heard was the Marine Corps hymn, and just watched the whole movie. It was called The DI, starring Jack Webb, and I just went, "Wow, what a great idea for a villain in professional wrestling." So I went down to the Army Navy surplus and got all the gear. Your mother came home from work, took some Polaroid shots of me. First, she didn't know what was going on. She thought I was dressed up for Halloween or something. And I said, no, this is a new character. I want to try it, see if it would work. And so the next day, my dad, of course, called me early in the morning. Don't worry about coming to work. It's still raining, pouring out. So I went down to the wrestling office to show her Gagne. And of course, he fell in love with the character because he hated his drill instructor, and he was in the Marine Corps. And he said, I just got off the phone with Harley Race, and they're looking for a new villain, and this would be perfect. I said, well, I can't leave. I'm still running my dad's roofing company. So my mother got better, so I went down. Your mother and I moved down there, and with your sister, and I was blessed again by running into Harley Race, who helped me incredibly. In fact, I wouldn't be in front of this TV probably right now on this show without Harley Race being part of
Wow.
my career. You know, and,
Thanks, Harley.
yeah, God
He
bless you.
passed away? Yes? Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
thought.
yeah. But Harley was one tough son of a gun. And back then, we used to do 2 out of 3 fall matches. And he had just lost the NWA title and bought into the Kansas City territory. So he just fell in love with me, and I wrestled him every night. Just learned so much, not only about in the ring and being a ring general, but promos. And Harley's the one that came up to me and said, "Hey kid, I like that move you use in the Slaughter clutch, but I don't think you should call it the Slaughter clutch." And I said, "Oh, why?" And he goes, "It just doesn't sound tough enough." I said, "Slaughter clutch doesn't sound tough." He said, "No, the way your arms are wrapped around everybody, you should call it the Cobra clutch." And I went, "Hey, I kind of like that." He said, "There's a Cobra clutch being used in other, down in Mexico and stuff like that, but I think you should really, I'm going to teach you how to really use it." So he was like, he's the one that really showed me how. And little did I know, I mean, the stars and moon and whatever was shining down on me that minute he said that, and I started using the Cobra Clutch name. Uh, 11 years later, I'm signed up with Hasbro Toys, G.I. Joe, and their enemy is Cobra. So
Yeah.
who was to know?
That worked out really good for you.
Yeah. And I'm still doing it. I'm still with Hasbro.
Right.
Still doing the Cobra
Yeah.
collection, chasing Cobra around
Right.
the country and keeping the world
You're
safe.
still kicking Cobra's butt, Dad.
Right. Look out, Cobra. You ruthless terrorist organization bound and determined to rule the world. Sgt Slaughter's still around. Got the renegades.
Sarge, you need to run for Secretary of Defense.
Yeah, there you go. I'll be the next Secretary of Defense.
So, you come up with the Sergeant Slaughter,
Right,
and Harley Race gives you the idea for the Cobra Clutch.
right.
And then what happens?
Then I go back to Minnesota because my mother got sick again. And, well, not again, but got worse. And
Yes.
so then I went back to Minnesota and I was doing that's when Vern asked me to go over to Hawaii and do the executioner. And then when I came back, I became super destroyer. Now, nobody had seen Sergeant Slaughter. Only ones that saw it were in Kansas City. So when it was like 2.5, almost 3 years of wrestling as Super Destroyer, and it was time for me to be unmasked with Dino Bravo and some other people. Uh, I just felt it was time for me to leave. And so Pat Patterson was going to New York. And as I said, it was 1975. and I gave Pat some 8x10s of myself as Sergeant Slaughter, and he went, "Matthew, who's this?" I said, "That's me, Pat. That's me, Sergeant Slaughter." He said, "I've never heard of you. I didn't know you were Sergeant Slaughter." I said, "Well, I am." And I said, "I was wondering if you would give these pictures to Mr. McMahon Sr. and see if he has any interest in it." So 2 weeks later, I get a call. And here we are. Worked out pretty good. That I ended up there shortly after I gave the pictures to Pat to take to New York. I was going up there for a tryout. Mr. McMahon Sr. loved the Sergeant Slaughter character. He never called me Sergeant Slaughter, always called me Sergeant. Sergeant, Sergeant. That's all he called me. So then after, of course, I was there and left and went down to Charlotte and did Sergeant Slaughter down there for a couple of years. I became the United States, the NWA United States heavyweight champion twice. And then Don Grenoble and I teamed up.
So what year was this, Dad? What year?
Oh, gosh. I would say the 81, 82, 83s. And so I went back up to New York in end of 83. And that's when I came back again as the villain. And then I gave Mr. McMahon Sr. the idea of letting me go against the Iron Sheik. It was from Iran, and I portrayed the Marine Corps drill instructor. And he loved the idea, but he didn't want to do it because he thought it would just be a short thing and, would work out. But his son, who was taking over the business, the company, loved it even more than his dad. And that's when he came to me and we did the element of surprise, and I went up against the Iron Sheik and became the hero of the world. And of course, that's when Hasbro saw that too, and they were looking for a different direction to take G.I. Joe, the animated series, and have a real live character in it. So off I went to Hasbro, and for 6 years I was with Hasbro. Did some independents and a lot of different things to try to keep myself out there on the screen because I didn't have any television airtime. So I would do as many radios and TV shows, news, sports shows, just to have my face on television. And that's when Vern Gagne called and said, "Hey, Bob, why don't you come on up back to the AWA? We could sure use it." I said, "Well, you let me use G.I. Joe, let me promote it?" He goes, "Oh, yeah." So back I went to the AWA as Sergeant Slaughter. Stayed there as long as
And promoting G.I. Joe.
promoting G.I. Joe on national television. So that was another win-win situation. All
Definitely.
worked out great. And then, of course, I finally left and went back to the WWE and stayed there for the rest of my career. Never went back.
Yes, that's when you became a traitor
A traitor.
and ruined my life. No, I'm just kidding.
Your life. I was the Iraqi sympathizer.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ruined everybody's lives.
I'm just kidding. I'm saying that because that's what Mom said in the biography. You're gonna ruin our children's lives.
Yeah,
You do this.
that's the reason That's the reason she used to divorce me. Good cop
So you
out.
ruined our lives.
KOPP, cop out. Yeah, no, it's all. I don't know if anybody that's watching this has seen the biography, but it's on A&E, and you go on their website and you can watch it. It's
Yeah,
very
you can go on the app and watch for free.
yeah.
Dad, I brought up Bray Wyatt and the story that you told me, and somebody in the chat asked if we could tell that story.
Oh, of course, of course. When I was the hero in the WWE, every time I would go out, I would have someone carry the flag out for me. So I'd always pick out a young boy or a girl. Sometimes you even have two or three of them. But one night I asked this boy to carry the flag, and he was kind of a shy guy. And he said, okay, yeah, I would love to. I would love to. So as the night went on, uh, one of the road agents uh, came up to me and said, Sarge, the little boy that was going to carry the flag for you got cold feet, and he doesn't want to do it. And that was Mike Rotundo. He was the agent at that time. And I said, okay, we'll find somebody else, you know. And so years later, now Bray Wyatt is in the WWE, and I'm back. I'm a producer backstage, not in the ring too much anymore. And but I would always bring my gear in case, you know, you always brought your gear just in case somebody got hurt or didn't show up or get a payday. You know, that's the way we were taught. Always bring your gear. But I just happened to bring my camouflage sports coats and things like that because I was, you know, not only working backstage, but I would go off during a pay per view or something and go to all the booths, all the news outlets and all that, and thank them and do a little spot for their TV or their radio. So when I came down, Bray Wyatt was walking down the hallway, and he came over and he said, "Hey, Sarge, I just want to tell you, I'm sitting right next to you in the locker room, and I got to tell you, it's a great honor because I've always been a huge fan of yours." And I said, "Really, Bray? Really?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Later on, when you come back, I want to tell you a story." So I get my work done and I go back, and he's getting dressed to wrestle. So he says, comes over and he gets down on his knee and he's telling me the story. He said, back when my father was an agent and a producer, you asked me to carry the flag out for you. And I got nervous. I was afraid I would drop it or something. And I said, "That was you?" He said, "Yeah, that was me." He said, "I was 10, probably 9, 10 years old." I said, "I can't believe it that you are sitting here next to me and that was you." Almost like the Jumpin' Joe Scarpello story with me, because Joe was my hero, and I never expected to ever, you know, meet him, and here I am sitting in a locker room, and this kid is now he's just beside himself. He's choking up. He's, Bray Wyatt was a hell of a talent in this business, and his uncles and his brother-in-laws and his dad and his brother, they're all great talents, and they learned the business. Barry Windham, part of the family. One of the greatest wrestlers I ever stepped in the ring with was Barry Windham, and should have been the world champion several times, but politics. But
Mm.
that was the story about Bray Wyatt. So wherever I would go, he would always make sure that I was taken care of. Make sure I had water. This is the star of the WWE now. He's the main guy. and he's asking me, advice, on certain promos and how we should do this in the ring and how should I do that in the ring. And it was just a tragic, horrible way that he had, you know, got in and out of the WWE and finally came back. And I thought he, got the demons out of his way. But, that's one of those things you don't never know when your time was up and when your number's being called. And unfortunately, not only for he and his family, but all the fans of professional wrestling, the universe, the WWE universe, how much they miss him. He started a whole different revolution with the lights, the cell phone lights and all that. He was just a great kid, great guy.
Yeah, that was really shocking when he passed, to
Yeah,
see that he had passed.
yeah.
So before you answer this questions come up a couple times about China. And before you answer this, I do want to say that I have like a special place in my heart for China because people used to be really mean about the things that they would say about China and how she looks. And then they would say how much she looks like you, and they would say that she was your long lost daughter. And then Nicole and I would be like, well, they talk about how ugly and she is and how she looks like a man and how she must be Sergeant Slaughter's daughter and we are his daughters. So does that mean like we look ugly and look like men? Like what the hell? But excuse me. But when we first met China, Nicole and I were backstage with you, and I feel like we were in Florida for some reason. I don't know why, but and we were backstage with you, and I think we were actually getting ready to go to our seats. We'd been backstage, we were getting ready to go to our seats, and you were kind of like walking us to where we should go to go out onto the floor. And she was standing there, and I think she might have been like getting ready to go on, and you went and got her and brought her over to us. And you were like, I want you to meet your long lost sister. This is China. And Nicole and I were like, oh, hello. Hey, China. Yeah. We all got like this big laugh out of it about how it's our long lost sister and everything. And, she introduced herself saying, like, my name is Joni, and used her real name. And just, she was so sweet and so nice and very, like, I almost was like, what'd you say? I could barely hear it. She was just like very soft spoken and super nice. And I thought in person she was pretty. I didn't think that she was ugly and at all. But I think those comments about her got to her because she eventually had plastic surgery and all of that. I don't want to speak for her. I'm just assuming. But anyway, that being said, Dad, Chris Jericho has said that China was a horrible wrestler. And what is your opinion on China's wrestling skills?
Well, first off, I'd have to see that. I'd have to hear it from Chris Jericho if he actually said that, because I find that very hard to believe that Chris Jericho would say a bad thing about anybody, much less China. But maybe there was some heat there that I didn't know about. But I thought she was a tremendous wrestler, and way before her time. She's the one that brought women into wrestling. Uh, we had the fabulous Moolah. We had Mae Young, and a couple of other ladies. And probably the Lalani Kai, probably one of the best all around women wrestlers that I ever watched. And she reminded me a lot. China reminded me a lot of Lalani, because Lalani could out wrestle the guys, and just was never given the right push and given the opportunity to do better things. and do more things. So China came in at the right time. He was, dating Triple H at that time, and they traveled together, worked out together, and they both, I believe, were trained by Killer Kowalski up in Boston. But China, to me, was the nicest person you'd ever want to meet. And as you said, you could hardly even hear her when she talked. And she was the epitome of the character, just like Sgt Slaughter and Robert Remus. Complete different. I mean, I portrayed a drill instructor in the United States Marine Corps, and she portrayed a badass, ass kicking woman. And on when she was off and doing her own thing, she was the sweetest, soft spoken lady you would never expect. And after she did the plastic surgery and all that, I think she just got tired of hearing all those negative things about her. Because inside she was the most beautiful woman you'd ever want to meet. And so I think she just, out of whatever reason she did it, she became one of the most gorgeous women in the world. And we did a WrestleMania in LA, and we were invited to the Playhouse, Playhouse, to the Playboy Mansion for a party. Sue Agents and myself, a bunch of other people, and Terry Reynolds was part of it. So we're in the cave. I don't know if anybody's ever heard about the cave at the Playboy Mansion, but we're in
The
there.
grotto.
The
The
grotto.
grotto.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so we were waiting in line to meet Hugh Hefner. And as we were getting closer, I said to Terry, have you ever thought about wanting to be a Playboy in a Playboy? And she said, oh, Sarge, no, I am a married woman. I'm a mother. And I would never do that. And I said, well, I just thought I'd ask because you're a pretty good looking lady and you've got what I think you would want to talk to. And I said, so I'm not going to bring it up, but if you want to, I would bring it up. She said, no, don't. So I did, and we ended up having a great time. So 2 days later, I get a call from Sue Agents. She said, Sarge, are you busy? I said, not really. She said, our seamstress and China want to go out to the Playboy Mansion. They didn't get to go the last time for the party, and they'd like to do the tour because he had a tour. He had all these exotic animals. Barbie Benton had a cabin, and it was a beautiful setting. So I said, yeah, I'll go. So we went out, the three of us, and so the XFL was in the process of starting up. So we take this tour and we see all these exotic animals and birds and everything like that. It's time to go. And I said to the guide, I said, is Mr. Hefner here? He said, I believe he is. I said, do you think he would come down and say hello? He said, I don't think he would, but I'll go ask him. So he came down. He said, yeah, Sarge, he said he would come down. He wanted to say hello to you. I said, oh, great. So he comes
A
down.
half was a wrestling fan of yours,
Yeah,
huh?
big
Or maybe G.I. Joe. Who knows?
G.I. Joe. I don't know. And so he comes down and he's talking to me and we're having a good time. And I said, I wanted you to meet somebody. And he turns to the makeup artist, who was a attractive woman, nothing like China, but attractive. And they were friends. She and China were friends. So I said, wanted you to meet this lady because I think as I was talking about meeting this lady about maybe doing something with the XFL and maybe taking the pads and having, how they do those shots. And so he said, yeah, I kind of like that idea. So I introduced him to the other lady first, and he went, uh, well, just, and he said, Sarge, he patted me on the back. He said, I appreciate you bringing her over. I said, no, that's not the lady I'm talking about. I said, the lady that's over here. And he looks at China and he went, holy cow. He's just like, wow. And I said, can you picture her in some pads, shoulder pads, and a helmet on and nothing else? And he said, yes, I can. And because China wanted, that's why she wanted to go there, to meet Hugh Hefner and say, you know, I'm willing to take my clothes off, and because she worked hard. And that was her way of making money. And so as we get into the limo, she just hugged me and kissed me. And she said, Sarge, I can't believe you did that for me. I can't believe you did that. And she ended up in 2 Playboy issues. And so
Nice.
proud of her, that she was able to work around all that and get, that extra money that she earned and worked so hard for, And, at this point, Triple H was kind of going in a different direction with Stephanie. And so she was kind of left out there all by herself. I felt bad for her that she got kind of pushed aside, you know, for the boss's daughter. And, but so anyway, uh, I'd have to see, I'd have to talk to Chris Jericho and see for sure if he really said that, because I find it very hard to believe that Chris Jericho would say something like that.
So you were right, like China was such a good at what she did. She is, when I was little and I wanted to be a wrestler, that is what I wanted to be doing, what China was doing. And she wasn't out there modeling it for me yet. And it never like dawned on me. Plus, you and mom did not encourage me to wrestle at all. And you still don't. Um, it never occurred to me that I could be like the first one doing that, wrestling the men. Like I wanted to wrestle the boys. And so when China first came, well, not when she first came out, when I first saw her, I was like, that's what I wanted to do. Like that right there, what she is doing is what I wanted to be doing. So
Right.
I loved her. Like I was a fan right away of hers. Because
The
I
last
wanted
time
to
I
be doing
saw her, the last time I saw her, we were at Roddy Piper's funeral, and I didn't even recognize her. She had lost so much weight. And she
Oh
came
wow.
up and she said, Sarge, Sarge. And she gave me a big hug. And I'm like, who is this? I don't know who this is. So I didn't recognize her. And her hair wasn't black and was her natural color.
Blonde.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not blonde, but a light brownish. And finally, I stepped back and I went, Joni? Sarge, yeah, it's me. I said, I'm sorry, I didn't recognize it. She says, oh, that's okay. I've been, doing this and doing that. She was doing some other crazy things. And she and X-Pac were,
She was on a reality show at one point.
yeah, yeah,
I watched it.
right.
I can't think of what it is right now. The Surreal Life, I think. Yeah.
hmm But so that was the last time I saw her. But and she was so sad. She was so sad. We were all sad that Roddy was gone because we were all such good friends.
Yeah.
And we were from the old school that we didn't talk bad about our families. We didn't touch anybody's. We didn't touch each other's money. We didn't touch each other's food. We were professionals, and that was the commandments. When I first stepped into a wrestling ring, they taught me the 3 commandments of respect, 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 respect those who paved that yellow brick road for us so we could be on it, and that we should continue to pave that road for those who are coming behind us. But it's not like that
Right.
anymore. Not like that. It's too bad.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lots out there that still do, but there's a lot more that
Well,
don't.
I feel like the old school way of doing things, and not just in wrestling, but anywhere, is kind of like becoming the old school way of doing things. Like there's this new way of doing things now. And I don't think that it's necessarily a good thing. I feel like why fix it if it's not broke? Like if why not be respectful? Like, I mean, why would you not want to be respectful to people? It's
Right.
just it blows my mind. But I do feel like that's happening more and more where it's just not the same as it used to be. And um yeah.
Well, they just don't know.
So
They weren't taught. They weren't taught that. That's what the territories taught you. When we had territories, that's where you learned the business and to respect the business and those who were in the business, not only while you're in the business, but before us and the ones that are coming up, you know. And that's just
yeah.
what it was.
Do you think the reality shows changed that? Like the Tough Enough, um, like those shows that I mean, Miz got into the business because of those shows.
Yeah, I
And he's a good talent. I think so. I know nothing about it, but do
he
you
had
think that is part of it? Because it was like people were like playing a game to win and maybe they didn't necessarily weren't really um fans necessarily.
well,
That they were doing it to win a show, not necessarily because it was they were winning it because they wanted to wrestle.
right,
Does that make sense? Like I never watched those shows, so I don't know.
right.
I can't, but you know what I'm saying? Do you think that's something that changed?
Yeah, I didn't watch much of the Tough Enoughs either because I didn't like it. I didn't think it was the proper way to bring somebody into the business. And
Right.
so, and because Mike, the Miz, was already in Hollywood and was doing reality shows and all that, but wanted to, they had a casting call. You know, you want to be a professional wrestler, tough enough, and you get this big contract. Of course, he went for it, and they tried everything. He had strike one against him before he even got there because he was already in Hollywood, and they didn't
On a
like
reality show.
right.
Yeah.
They didn't like that. They wanted somebody to be, you know, a tough guy that was going to, you know, stretch everybody and beat up everybody, and he just wouldn't say no. He wouldn't say uncle. And every time I see him, I say, "Keep it up, kid. Don't let him get the best of you. Keep your chin up and your chest out. Don't let them try to, ruin it for you. Just do it. Do what they tell you to do, and do it more than they tell you to do it." And he's still there. And always, anytime I see him, I don't see him much anymore, but he always comes up, gives me a hug, thanks me. That's the respect, that is nice to feel and hear and see, and other wrestlers see that. Today's wrestlers, you think that they would learn from all that, but I'm not sure. I'm not in that business anymore. I don't know if I could be in the business now. I'm not a good memorizer. Scripts, I can't. That's why I don't did do much Hollywood things. I did commercials and voiceovers because I could read the script. I didn't have to memorize it. We ad libbed everything. That's what we did. Roddy Piper and I'd be driving down the road, and he'd be writing in a notebook and asking me, "What, Uncle Bob? What about this?" Let me see. I said, "What do you got? What do you got, Hot Rod?" Uh, I came here to kick ass and chew bubble gum. And that was as far as he got. And I said, "Yeah." I said, "What's the rest of it?" He said, "I don't have the rest of it." I said, "Well, tell it to me again." "I came here to kick ass and chew bubble gum." And I said, "And you're all out of bubble gum?" And he went, "Oh my God, oh my God!" That's how we helped each other. And ended up using that in a promo, and everybody loved it. And then he ended up doing that movie They Lived, and he talked to the producer director to let him use that line in the movie when he walked into the bank. And it's a cult. It's a cult type
Cult classic.
drama.
Yes, it is.
And I always felt so proud that I was part of that, but I didn't, like say, hey, you got to put my name on there on the credits.
Right. Give me my 10%.
Yeah. It's just that was a friendship thing. That was fun. So we did.
Right.
It's how we learned the business from each other, and the territories. You go in the ring. I remember many, many, many nights wrestling 3 times in one show. I'd be the opening match, come back and do a tag match like 3, 4 matches later, and then end the show in a battle royal. And I get an extra $10 or $15 for each time I wrestled. So I went home with more money than anybody, and I got more experience. And I think it all helped out somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. Dad, let's say happy birthday to Kyle really quick. It's his birthday on Friday.
Hey, Kyle, man, good to see you. Good to hear from you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kyle. You scum, you slime, you maggot. Happy birthday to you and many more. Wow, that was beautiful.
That was beautiful. Does everyone watching know that you actually have an album? You need to do like a re-release of this album, Dad.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do a Christmas album singing,
There you
you
go.
better watch out, you better not cry, you better not pout, and have a couple other wrestlers like Chris Jericho sing, and gosh, what was her
Like We Are the World, but
name?
Christmas
Yeah,
with a bunch of wrestlers.
yeah, and gosh, we
There
had
was a song one time. It was a bunch of wrestlers out. You weren't in it, but
first
I remember that.
the wrestling album. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of talented singers in our business, and there still is. Pat Patterson was one of the greatest singers of all time. He sang songs like Frank Sinatra, and who was the guy
Dean Martin.
played the trumpet? Hey, Dolly, hey, hello, Dolly. I'm so good
Oh,
to have you back where you belong. Anyway, he
why can't I
sang.
think of his name?
If you weren't looking, you would think that was that person singing the song.
Oh, wow.
He'd do karaoke. And I did a pretty good karaoke one night with Michael Roker. A lot of people know who Michael Roker is. He's been in a lot of movies. And we did a karaoke one night, and I said, Michael, I can't sing. He said, come on, sorry, let's go. Come on, we'll go do it. You'll do it. So we get up there, we're waiting. Finally, it's our time, and they started. Yeah, Louis Armstrong. That was it. And we get up on stage, and I didn't know what song we were going to sing. I just figured I'd wing it, and it was Tequila. All they did was play music, and when it's time, we say Tequila. And
That's funny.
yeah, it was fun.
That needs to be my karaoke song when people want me to do karaoke. Do tequila. Just stand there.
Tequila. That was
But you
great.
got to do like Pee Wee Herman and do
Yeah.
that thing
And that's where that came from. Okay. I remember that.
in the front and then in the back.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was the tequila song. Yeah. Yeah, you're
I
right.
think it was. I know I'm not making that up. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my
But
goodness.
there's a lot of I always thought it'd be fun to make a Christmas album of wrestlers singing.
Dad, have you seen Iron Claw yet?
I did. I
You
did.
did?
I want to watch it again.
I
I
want to
thought
see it.
I thought they did an incredible job. The actors that were in that did an incredible job and worked out hard to get that look and of course the matches weren't that good because they weren't wrestlers, but uh, Chavo Guerrero, I believe, was the stunt coordinator on that, and he made them all look pretty damn good. And to tell the story about Kerry, well, it was about the Von Erichs, but Kerry Von Erich was such an incredible athlete that he actually wrestled with a prosthetic foot, and nobody knew it. He had a motorcycle accident when he was in high school, I believe it was, and he had to lose his foot. And so he put a prosthetic in his boot and laced it up. The only way we found out about it was he was in a wrestling match one night, and I think it was Colonel De Beers was wrestling him, and he was pulling on his leg to pull him out of the ring, and it came off in his hand. The boot came off in his hand,
Oh
and
no.
Jerry rolled out of the ring, grabbed the boot, went underneath the ring, put the boot back, and ended up finishing the match. And that's when we all found out that he only had one foot. And what he did on one foot is pretty amazing, and it's pretty
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah.
So Jared said he's never heard that. So was there controversy over that? Like the athletic commission wouldn't let him wrestle or something?
No, I don't think they stopped him from wrestling. I think he got so embarrassed by it that he got on the wrong of some bad drugs and things and alcohol and started running with the wrong crowd. Roddy Piper actually talked him off a ledge in New York City, 12 stories up in the air from jumping. And Roddy and I were having some drinks down the bar, and somebody said what was going on. And Roddy shot out of there and disappeared. And I ended up later on finding out that Roddy went up into his room and guys were trying to get him to come off the ledge. And Roddy actually went out of the ledge and brought him back in.
Wow.
He was going to jump. And I said, Hot Rod, you know, you've done some incredible things, but that takes the cake to be out on the ledge like that, 12 stories up for somebody you hardly even know. But he was your brother. We were all brothers
Yeah.
and sisters. That's the way it was back then. We took care of our own. We took care of our own. It was a song. I think Bruce Springsteen sang. We take care of our own. I don't know if he wrote it, but he sang it at a one of those rewards shows one time. Somebody had died. I don't know if it was Whitney Houston or someone. He sang that song, first song of the night. But that's the way it was. We took care of each other.
Yeah.
If somebody
Um,
had a problem, somebody would try to help out. Try to help out.
did Ric Flair wrestle in the AWA?
He started there. He's trained there. Yeah,
Do you
he did.
have
He
any
did.
stories with any good Ric Flair stories from that time period or at all?
Well, Rick was always a showman, even when he wasn't a wrestler. He was in college and things like that. Uh, he was a party man, and we went to opposite high schools, and whenever there was a party or something going on a Saturday night after a football game or a basketball game or a wrestling meet, uh, the Golden Valley boys would come over to the party, and Rick would be with him, and he was the mouth. He was talking all the chrome off the bumpers, you know. But when it came down to fighting, he was the beyond. He was the last one in line. He wasn't fighting anybody. He was he was
Oh.
he was all show. He didn't putt for dough. He was just show, and he's still that way. I don't think I've ever seen Ric Flair have a fight with anybody, physical fight. He's a hell of a performer. Great guy to be around and party with. But I played, you know, Pop Warner football against him. We played Little League baseball against each other. We played high school against each other. And we had a couple softball teams that we played against each other. In fact, he played on our softball team one time, Remus Roofing. Did I ever tell you that story? You
No.
haven't heard? This is a story you've never heard.
I don't know. I've heard a lot of stories. You might start telling it and I may be like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I remember
Well,
this.
if you heard it, then just stop me. So I run
Well,
into
they haven't heard it,
oh,
so
they haven't. So we're having a softball game, and we're short a couple of guys. And this is every weekend we play softball. So a couple of guys decide they're not going to play this weekend. So I run into Rick and Ken Patera at a bar called Bunny's in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. And I said, "What are you guys doing tomorrow?" "Oh, nothing." I said, "I need a couple of softball players on my team. And when you come, I'll have shirts and everything for you." So they pull up in a Corvette, a green, almost black looking Corvette. And Rick was about 380 and
he was
Temperature
what?
380 pounds. And Temperature was about 330 pounds. And how they got into that Corvette, I'll never know. But when they got there, all you saw was their bodies, you know. And they opened up the doors and they came out. And was a groupie of my dad. Yeah, he was. He was, Dan. He was. And his real name is Rick Fleer. Rick Fleer. And anyway, so we got enough guys to play. So I figured, well, since they came, I'll let them start playing. So Ken, you know, he was really a good athlete, and so Rick came, and I said, well, I'll make you the catcher because it was slow pitch, and so I said, you just be the catcher. So we went through a couple of innings. It was time for Rick to bat, and he never played slow pitch softball before. So the guy throws the ball up in the air, and Rick is watching it, and he swung and missed, and everybody went, "Oh, ah," you know, kind of like. So he went for the next pitch and swung and missed that one too. So I called timeout. I was the coach, so I went up. I said, "Rick, don't look at the pitcher. Look at the ball. As soon as it leaves his hand, and if just watch it, keep watching it, and if it looks like it's going to come across the plate, then swing at it. But you're swinging at something that's not even there. It's dropping like 2 feet in front of you because it's so high in the air." He said, "Okay, thanks, Bob." So the next one came and he let it go, and it bounced like 2 feet in front of the plate. Ball. Next one come, same thing. Pitcher was trying to get him to swing at a bad pitch. And so all the outfielders moved in because it was they saw him swing and miss. So they figured he's not going to hit it anyway, and if he does, it's not going to go very far. And we had fences. So about the sixth pitch comes, and Rick hit the ball so hard it hurt my ears. I'm not kidding you, Kelly. It hurt my ears, and it went sailing over everybody's heads. And Rick started running to first base, and the outfielder got to the ball, threw it back into the relay guy, threw it to first, and got Rick out at first base
Oh man.
because he couldn't run. He was so big. And so he went to the dugout, and I said, Rick, unless you hit that ball over the fence, I don't really have any use for you in the game. Yeah, if you want to catch, that's fine, but you're gonna have to step it up. You're gonna have to run a little faster. So shortly after that, he got into wrestling full time and went down to Charlotte. I mean, he set the professional wrestling world on fire. He was the hottest thing. And then, of course, when he just got everything going his way, he got in a plane crash. One guy died, another guy, Bob Bruggers, who was in his training camp up in Minnesota, probably the greatest amateur athlete ever out of Minnesota. He lettered in 3 different sports. He was an all-state in 3 different sports.
Wow.
And he was in that plane crash and would never recover and wrestle again. But Rick broke his back, but ended up recovering. And, he's the icon of professional wrestling today. Got to give him a lot of credit for what he's done, what he did. But he was something.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank God.
But you benched him.
Hmm?
You benched him. You benched him.
I benched him. I benched him. I benched
Dad,
Ric
when's the
Flair.
next
How do you
time?
like that?
There you go. You benched Ric Flair. Dad, when will you be in Minnesota next? Did you have any other stories you wanted to talk about with the AWA before I wrap up?
That's pretty much any stories that I remember. I mean, there's a lot of good stories, but some of them can't be told.
Yes, they can.
Oh, they can?
If you're going to write a book, you got to put it all out there, Dad.
Yeah, well, I'll save it for the book.
Okay.
Yeah.
When's that happening?
Yeah. Soon. I'll tell you one quick story. Well, I'll
Okay.
tell you 2 quick stories. One about
Okay.
Jesse the Body Ventura.
Okay.
We go out to San Francisco for our first AWAs. Decided to go out to the West Coast. As far as we went at one time was Colorado, Denver, Colorado, and then we didn't go any further. But finally, they decided we're going to go out to LA and San Francisco and a bunch of other places. So we all go out there, and Jesse's, the Body, and he's teamed up with Adrian Adonis, and they're really hot. They're the hottest tag team in the country, in the world. And so we get we're on the plane, and we get off the planes and we go our separate ways because we had like a day or two to do things. And we come to the matches the first night. Jesse didn't show up. No showing. So they said, did anybody see Jesse? What happened to him? No. So we were out there for 4 days, and Jesse never came to one match. And so we all flew back. He didn't show up for the matches. So he went AWOL. So we come back, and about 2 days later, we are going to do some promos. And here comes Jesse in the same outfit that I saw him in when he left the airplane in LA or San Francisco, whichever city it was in California. So I went up to say hello to him, and he smelled like garbage. Smelled like said, Jesse, wow, what's going on? He said, oh, Matthew, I just came back. He said, I got off the plane and a couple of my buddies from the Navy, the SEALs, picked me up and we went out to do a little party. He said, I woke up in a dumpster. He said, I don't know where I was, what day it was. He said, I was just, and so that was what happened to him. He just got so messed up that he didn't even know where he was. He said he woke up
Jeez.
in a dumpster in the same clothes. He just came off the airplane, or however he got back to Minneapolis and came. He knew that we had to do TV and showed up. It was crazy.
Man,
The other
I've
story,
never been in that position,
was
blacking out.
Bert Gagne's pride and joy. One of his daughters was single, and Lord Alfred Hayes and a bunch of us, your mom was there. We all went to a party. I believe it was at Greg Gagne's house. And we left, your mom and I left, and a day or two later, find out that Lord Alfred Hayes and Vern's daughter have disappeared. Nobody knows where they're at. So Greg found out that, or didn't find out, but he guessed that they were probably over at Alfred's apartment. And so he went over and knocked on the door and said, hey, you guys got to get out of there. You got to come. You got to come on home. He's telling his sister, you got to come home. Dad's not real happy. So they didn't open the door. Things went by. Of course, Alfred told me the whole story later. But so we come to do the next TV, and Alfred is my manager. I'm the Super Destroyer Mark II. And so he always would do crossword puzzles or be reading a book or something while he was waiting to do his interviews and his promos. So they decided they're going to do this show in Chicago, Illinois. And they said, okay, here's the card. This guy, this guy, this guy, that guy, this guy. And Bobby Heenan versus Lord Alfred Hayes. And Alfred looks over at Bobby Heenan. Bobby Heenan shrugs his shoulders. So the announcer, the guy who's doing the promos, goes, okay, it's a loser leave town match. And Alfred looks up from his crossword puzzle and he says, Matthew, I guess I'll be leaving soon. I said, looks that way, Alfred. And so they gave me Bobby Heenan as a manager, and Alfred was gone. He did about maybe a couple of months of shows so that they could establish Bobby with me, Bobby Heenan. And then he went off to Montreal, Canada. I about starved to death. He was living with Billy Robinson, and he hated Billy Robinson, but he had to live somewhere. And so he was living with Billy Robinson, and he called me one time. He said, Matthew, I'm about dead. I'm about dead, Matthew. I said, Alfred, where are you? He said, I'm in Montreal. I said, no, you're in Montreal, but where are you? Oh, I'm in this hellhole, Billy Robinson. I said, well, come on down to New Jersey. I'm working for WWF, and you can stay at my apartment now. I get making enough money. You can just stay there. I go home whenever I can down to Charlotte. You just stay there whenever. So he gave his notice in Montreal, came down. He was thin as a rail, wasn't eating, wasn't hardly even drinking. Poor guy. And so he stayed at my condo in New Jersey, where Kevin Smith, put the sign on the camouflage limo that time about me being Gomer, and
Yes.
so we were doing promos one day, and we were doing the first promo for Victory magazine. And so I did a bunch of promos because I was pretty much the hottest guy there as far as the heroes. And so Vince says, do this, do that. And I said, let me ask you a question, Vince. Are you going to take this magazine worldwide? He says, oh, yeah, we're going worldwide. And I said, well, Lord Alfred Hayes is in my apartment, and he's just living there. Maybe you could have him do a promo for, people in England and all that. He goes, yeah, call him up. So I called Alfred. I said, Alfred, come to Allentown, Pennsylvania, as soon as you can. He said, well, why, Matthew? I said, well, Vince wants to have you do some promos. And so he came to the studio, and in one take, I'll never forget it, he took a coffee cup, put a little water in it, and he was doing the promo, and he said, Victory Magazine, so good when you're sipping your tea. And did one take, and Vince says, I love it, I love it. And he worked there till the day he died almost. He did all kinds of jobs. He worked in the studio, he did promos, he did commentary, he didn't do any wrestling. He just, that was his job. And finally they let him go when he went down to Dallas. And that's where he passed, down to Dallas in a home down there. He was so riddled with arthritis. And he didn't want anybody to see him. So every time I'd call him, I'd send him Playboy magazines from all the lady wrestlers that were in the magazines on the covers. I'd have them sign them to Alfred, and I'd send it to him. But he never responded to me because he didn't want me to see him like he was. And so I talked to a guy that was taking kind of a little bit of care of him at the end. He said he was just it was a horrible thing to witness. So I'm kind of glad
So sad.
I didn't see it. Yeah.
That's sad. He returned the favor for you. You gave him a place to stay, and then he gave you one.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, when I left Weston, Connecticut, I moved in with him into Stamford, Connecticut. I was his downstairs butler.
That's right.
So we lived together. And one night I came home from a show, and the garage door was open. I saw his little MG in the garage. He had a little MG car, and there was no lights. The light was burnt out in the garage. So as I was walking to get to the back door, I was feeling on my way, holding on to Alfred's car, and all of a sudden I put my hand, and I put my hand on his head, and it made me
He was
jump.
sitting in the car.
He was sitting in the car because he had had too much to drink. He had fallen asleep. He
Hmm.
passed out. And I
Oh,
went, oh my God. And he goes, oh, Matthew, you're home. And I said, yeah, Alfred, you all right? Yeah, yes, I just haven't got the courage to get out of my car yet. Oh, here, I'll help you. So we were quite the odd couple, I'll tell you that. We had a lot of fun. But one day I was leaving. He left before I did. He had to go it was a Saturday. He was off, and he was going to go do some things. And the off he wanted in his MG. And about maybe a half hour later, I leave to go get on the highway 95, wherever I was going. And as I pull up to get to 95, I see Alfred's MG sitting on the side of the road with one tire missing. And so I pulled up behind him, and he's still sitting in his car. And I said, Alfred, what happened? He said, Matthew, my tire fell off, and it crashed into that building over there and broke all the glass. And he didn't know what to do. I said, God, Alfred, I'm on my way to the airport. I'm going to have to try to help you as much as I can. So I ran over, got the tire out of the guy's window, and brought it over, and called the tow truck and waited for the tow truck. And finally, the tow truck got there and was taking care of him. I said, Alfred, I got to go. I got to go. He said, thank you, Matthew. Thank you. And so a lot of funny things happen. Is that why you don't
So,
buy? Because the wheels fall off? The tires? Great.
so I had come to visit you when you were living with Alfred, and I we had gotten food from somewhere and we had leftovers and I wanted to heat it up in the microwave, and I looked in every cabinet, I looked in the dishwasher, I looked everywhere. There were no plates.
No.
No plates, no paper plates, no forks. There was like no, like I ended up like eating it with my
Yeah,
hands. And because you were gone somewhere, you had did something and then you were coming home and I had like woken up and wanted to eat. And I finally, you came home and I said, Dad, like, where are your plates? Like, I just had to eat leftovers with my fingers. That was so funny. You were like, we don't use plates here. What are you talking about?
we took paper towels and folded them over. That was our plates.
Yeah.
Because everything
I
we
was
ate,
like, that I'm gonna
that
get you some paper plate, just paper plates, just something.
we didn't cook. So
So Ryan is saying Matthew. So
that,
explain why they Alfred called you Matthew.
well, when I was a Super Destroyer Mark II, wearing a mask, whenever I check in at a hotel, because Vergania made me wear the mask no matter where I went. He wanted me to do a promo for a bank down in downtown Minneapolis, and wanted me to wear the mask into the bank. And I said, are you trying to get me killed or what? You're going to shoot me. He said, no, 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 they won't. They won't. So anyway, I talked him out of it. I didn't have to do it. But so whenever I would check in at a hotel, I'd always check in as Matt Burns, M-A-T, Matt Burns, like you get on your elbow when you skin your elbow in a mat in the wrestling ring. And I just
Yeah.
would say Matt Burns. Of course, Alfred Hayes never used short names or anything like that. He spoke the Queen's perfect English. And instead of calling me Matt or Bob, he'd say Matthew or Robert. And Pat was Patrick, and Louis was Louis, and Nick Bockwinkel was Nicholas. Bobby Heenan was Robert. He always used the proper name. So whenever I go anywhere, he'd say, Matthew, Matthew, come, come. And pretty soon everybody started calling me Matthew because that was what Alfred called me. And to Pat's dying day, he called me Matthew. Everybody, there's still people that call me Matthew. El DeRusha. In fact, I'm throwing a shout out to El. I hope he's doing well. He was kind of in a bad place, but he's snapped out of it. And his son, Gary Juice, was a referee. And so they still call me Matthew. Whenever I see them up in Minnesota or anything, they go, Matthew, how's it going? How's it going, Matthew? They don't call me Sarge or Super Destroyer or anything like that. It's Matthew, Matthew.
That's funny.
So it's my nickname. It was my nickname. That's how I kept
That's
it.
how I knew when I saw I was on, you did an appearance for the Dallas Stars and you came up in my feed on Facebook for being at the Dallas Stars. And I looked at the comments and I saw this comment of someone, um, it was Candy Hayes and then her last name. and she called you Matthew. And I was like, all right, if your maiden name is Hayes and you're calling my dad Matthew, you must be Lord Alfred's daughter. And she was like,
Yeah,
yes, I am. Do you remember me?
yeah,
So that's how I knew. Because I'm like, if you're calling him Matthew,
yeah, yeah. His son Kirsten told me Matthew also. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, so I loved Alfred.
Oh, who did?
Um, So Brandon wants to know, he says, this might be common knowledge, but when you win a championship, do you get a replica of the title or what? Always wondered that. Also, were you responsible for keeping up with the title when you traveled?
Yes. Once you won the title, you know, one thing in professional wrestling is you never win a title; you earn the title. You're the one that they want to put the title on, so you earn it. You don't really win it, and you are given the title that you win that night to carry with you and take with you wherever you go. And that can be a pain in the butt sometimes because they're very heavy. They're awkward. You can't, especially these days, you can't go through a metal detector at an airport without taking that belt out. And when you take it out, everybody wants to get a picture with you, and whatever, and it slows you down. So a lot of times when you're the champion, you just have to. What I do now is I just take my belt and my championship. We're supposed to call them championships now instead of belts. But I take my championship out of my bag before I even go through the conveyor belt, and I put it right on top of my bag. And everybody that sees it, they go, "Oh, hey, that's." And then I get a new picture.
Yes, Sarge, I knew it was you.
I told you,
I
but I
witnessed that many times.
but I always leave a little extra time just because of that reason. But when you lose, when you do lose the title, you pass it on to the next person. And if the title isn't in too good a shape, they'll make it a new one or a different one. Very seldom do they make the same one. So if you want to, say, purchase the title, like I know Ric Flair bought a couple of the NWA world title belts, four different champions that held it, so that they could. That was kind of his gift to them when he beat them and earned the right to wear that title. And so he would make one for them so they would have it, which is a really nice thing for Rick to do. But there are, different different types of titles. But hang on one second.
I have a feeling he's going to go get. Oh, wow. What is that? Dad, the camera is following you.
It is.
What kind of magic?
Don't mess with the
How-
Sarge. Don't mess with the Sarge. Here's my
It,
newest title that was given to me. It's camouflage. It's actually the WWF original wing double wing eagle title. But someone camouflaged it and gave it to me. Only one of its kind. And I also have the GI
very
Joe.
cool.
Also have the GI Joe title. You want me to go get that? No, you better not, because
Sure, it's going to follow you.
you'll
So,
follow me right to my bedroom. That's where it is.
okay.
And I didn't
Oh
make my
my,
bed.
that's so weird. I can't believe it follows you. I want to see how far it follows you this time.
Oh, I didn't. You want to see how far it falls? Okay, I'll go get
Yeah, go get it.
it. See me?
Okay, it didn't follow him. No, it's not following you this time. Did
Oh,
you guys see that? What? Look, it's moving around looking for him. What the heck is going on? Is this like a new thing? That is crazy. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Sarge the tech guru, he can't even get logged into StreamYard. I always have to help him, but somehow his iPad follows him. I have no idea. That's crazy.
And here's the GI Joe title that was given to me by Hasbro for my induction into the Hall of Fame, GI Joe Hall of Fame. See, it's got the Marauders. See if I can show it to you. That's it. Slaughter's Marauders, and it's got the Cobra Clutch, Slaughter, Clutch. Anyway, it's another nice gift that I had. What happened to you? Oh, there you are. Okay.
I'm back. I wanted to do full screen so you could show off your belt.
Oh, and there's another one if you want to see it.
Oh, sure. I'm gonna see if it moves. Oh my gosh. That is craziness. Yo, that is crazy. I want this iPad he has. That's so cool. Yeah, haunted house. Kenneth, Dad, your iPad is haunted.
It is. Now that's the one
Yes.
I won. That's the title I won from the Ultimate Puke in Miami, 1991. How about that?
So that is the one that everyone says is not the real one.
Well, they'll have to show me the real one.
That's the one that everyone, because when I did the side by side of you and I holding that belt, and it looks different because it's different lighting. It does, like the picture of you holding it under all the studio lights, all the camera lights and everything. It does look like the way it looks like there's diamonds
Right.
on that belt. I mean, it's just like spectacular looking. And then they have, when you see it in person like that, it doesn't look like that because you don't have all the studio lights.
Yeah.
But there is a picture that you have, and you had it at Joe Fest, and it was the side by side of you and I. And in that picture, you can tell that they're the same because it was like the quality of I don't know. You can tell that. I'm like, see, you can tell that they're the same freaking one, and it's just the lights. It's the way the lights in the
Well,
ring were that made it
what I
look like
what I'm
very
kind
spectacular.
what I'm kind of guessing happened was the night that I won it, he didn't have the warrior didn't bring the black belt to Miami, so the next night they gave me the black belt, but they never asked for the purple one back because he had a little bit of heat with the office with Vince and some other people. Then they asked for the title back, so I gave it to them, and then they said, "Well, you can have it." They gave it back to me. So what I think they did was made a duplicate. So I'm not really sure. That's as far as I know, that's the title that I won that night. But it may not be. But I thought it was. I mean, it looks identical to the one that I held up in the ring. So that's
Well, you took it right in to have picture promos done.
right.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan and I, yeah. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and Hogan's mad because the black belt isn't there, and that's what he wanted to take a picture with because that was a WrestleMania picture. And he said, "Oh, well, where's the black belt?" Well, he didn't bring it. He was mad. He was furious. He said, "This is WrestleMania promo picture." And said he won the purple title. That's the history of it. That you always have to take a picture with you. Wanted me to do spray it black, or so
Right.
They had a big argument. Then Vince really pissed him off when he told him to stand on a stool, or not a stool, but a wooden thing so he could be taller than me in the picture. But
That's funny. Walter, I didn't know you lost your home. I'm so sorry. I'm
what
so
happened?
sorry to hear that. I don't know. He said, really enjoyed spending the evening with you guys. It really took my mind off of losing my home 2 days ago. I love you guys. Those belts made me smile so big.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear
Yeah, I'm sorry. Um, I have to sneeze.
Storm?
Um, huh?
Was it in a storm or fire? Or?
I don't know. Kenneth, though, he says my hair looks great. Thanks. This
It
is
does.
workout hair. I worked
Does.
out this morning and I threw some dry shampoo in it, and that is it. Um, all right, let me see here. It burned. It burned. I am so sorry. I hope everybody got out okay. That's awful. Hogan isn't he 5 or 6'7"? He's
Yeah,
not 6'7", Dad?
he's about 6'2".
Yeah. Um, let's see.
With his with his special boots, he's about 8 feet tall.
He's got lifts.
Didn't hear it from me. Did I say that?
I don't know. I don't
No.
know.
I feel I
Trisha,
should say.
I'm sure that they have stands where it will follow you. My dad does not have that. Do you have a tripod on that iPad?
No, it's
No.
up against a
Um,
towel, paper towel
the
dispenser.
towel holder. Yeah, I think somebody else said that it's looking for a face. That's what it's doing, is looking for a face. It's
Well, it's
probably
got
some setting. Yeah, it's probably some setting on there. Um,
a pretty good
did you
face
ever
on it right
hear
now.
did you ever hear about Million Dollar Man losing the $1 million title in a taxi cab?
I heard that. I heard that. I don't know if that's true or not. I think Virgil may have borrowed it. Well, the story I love the best is Virgil. You know, Virgil would show up anywhere to try to sell pictures, and so I'd be doing an autograph session at a toy store, say for an example, and pretty soon people be coming in with the Virgil pictures autographed, and I said, "Oh, Virgil in town?" And they said, "Boy, he's right outside the front of the store." I said, "What do you mean he's outside the front of the store?" "Yeah, he put up a card table and he's selling pictures while people are waiting to come in and see you." And I said, "What?" So I'd go out and I said, "Virgil," he said, "Hey, Sarge, you don't mind if I make a few dollars, do you?" I said, "No, come on in here and make more money." So the all-time favorite story, and that I always love, is Virgil went to Hollywood, you know, with the China, you know, where they have all the stars.
Yeah, the Chinese theater, the famous
Yeah, the
theater.
walk of stars. Yeah. So he takes a card table and puts it on Vince McMahon's star and sells pictures.
I love it. I love it.
Oh God, I love Virgil. God rest his soul. He was a good.
Yes.
He was a good one. Guess who's coming to dinner? That was another line I gave Roddy Piper because he had Virgil as a secret partner against the Undertaker and somebody, and he wanted to surprise them, and he didn't know exactly how to introduce Virgil. And I said, "Well, just tell him, guess who's coming for dinner," and have Virgil walk out from that movie. Forget the name of the movie, but Spencer, somebody was in it. And, Sidney Poitier was the man that was coming for dinner because he fell in love with the father's daughter, and that was a no back then, back in the 40s and 50s. So
Yeah. Boss's daughter.
yeah,
Didn't work out too well for for Alfred, but it worked pretty good for Triple H, I'd
yep,
say.
yep, sure did.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it funny how you take a look back at DX and all the things that we went through, the three of us. I was the commissioner and I laid the law down to him. Vince said, "You be the commissioner, but you can't have any rules. There's no rules. You have to wear a sports coat and a suit, but you can't hit anybody. You can't put anybody in the so you can't hit anybody with a slaughter cannon or put them in a cobra clutch. But you're the commissioner." And I said, "Boy, that's just it's like going to the OK Corral without a gun." I mean, so all the stuff that we used to do back, as we were talking earlier about ad libbing, we ad libbed everything. We tried to make each other laugh on live television. We would do funny things. Some people weren't comfortable with that, but we had this chemistry. The three of us had this chemistry, and China was with them too. And so the four of us, always worked a little bit together in the ring and live. And that night that they had I was to give them the riot act. And as I started speaking, they said, "Hold it, Sarge." And they had two bags in the ring, and I thought, "Oh, I wonder what's in those bags." And I looked up to see if I was going to get, slimed or something. And I saw there wasn't any slime up there. And as I looked back down, they put these welding masks on with clear faces. And they thought that was pretty funny. And I just kind of looked at it and I said, "Yeah, it was clever, but it wasn't funny, not going to make me laugh." So then I started giving them some more. And they said, hold it, Sarge." And they put these windshield wipers on because I slobber all over when I'm talking. There's nothing I can do about
Sergeant Slobber.
it. That's what they called me, Sergeant Slobber. And so they thought that was really funny. It took everything I had not to laugh. It really did. So when they finally took those shields off, I got back at them and I spit every ounce of saliva out of my mouth onto them. And they were like, "Holy, sorry, Sarge, sorry."
You can see them like backing up when you can see it flying everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So when we got in the back, they said, "That's your backfired on us."
They said what?
They said that backfired on us as they were
Yeah.
running away. As they were running away, Sarge
Yeah.
was true. Some wrestlers would do tricks on young wrestlers, like gluing their shoes or bags to the floor. Well, some wrestlers, but mostly you never mess with anybody's clothing or anything like that. You might do it to some fans on an airplane. I can tell you some stories about that, but you'll have to read about that one in the book.
So, well, there was a time where there was a wrestler that was not very nice to you, and then he wore an Arab a Middle Eastern headdress. I'm totally blanking on his name, but he wore that, and I'm blanking on what that's called too. But
Oh,
that went missing
yeah,
after he was not nice to you, and then he had to put a towel on
yeah.
to have
Yeah,
the
it wasn't that he wasn't nice to
yeah.
me. He wasn't respectful to me. And we were over in Hawaii, and we were doing all types of matches over there. And I was the commissioner, and I was a road agent at the same time. That's his name, Muhammad Hassan. And so I was going to wrestle him, and he completely ignored me and figured he was a big star. And Stone Cold Steve Austin came right up to him and grabbed him and said, "Hey, when Sergeant Slaughter talks, you listen, kid." And he went, "What?" He said, "Sergeant Slaughter is talking to you. You walked away from him." He said, "You don't do that to someone like Sergeant Slaughter." And so that got around that he disrespected me. So when we got to Hawaii, they had a match, a big show, and the Undertaker and a bunch of the guys came on the bus. And they say, "Is this true that what we heard that this guy uh, disrespected you?" And I said, "Well, I guess he disrespected me." So that's all we need to know. That's all we need to know. So the next night they had a battle royal, and they wouldn't let the guy out of the battle royal. They kept him in to the end, and all they did was line him up, everybody like Chris Benoit and all those guys would get him in the corner and just chop him, and chop him, and chop him, and his chest was bleeding because he was being chopped so much, not only the chest but on the back, and they went throw him out to get him out of the battle royal. So he was the last one in there with, I think it was the Undertaker, and finally the Undertaker threw him out, and the kid came to me and got on his knees and kissed my hand actually, and he said, "I apologize. I'll never disrespect you again. Please call him off. Please call him off." I said, "I didn't have nothing to do with that. They did that on their own. That's what they call the wrestler's law." And as we talked earlier about the respect, and you don't touch my food, you don't talk about my family, you don't touch my money. Those were the basic three things. But the wrestlers just took the law into their own hands when it was time to do it. You know, if somebody, a lot of times they have court. Undertaker was the judge, and JBL was the attorney, and the whoever was the guilty wrestler would have to bring an attorney if they chose to have one, and if they lost the court case, they had to do whatever the judge told them they had to do. Like you had to buy 6 cases of beer and put it in the locker room for 2 weeks. That was your punishment for disrespecting. Like a young wrestler might luckily get upgraded to first class. And if someone like me or, you know, my type of class, like Roddy Piper's and
A legend,
a
if a
legend,
legend,
would
yes.
would be in the back of the plane if you didn't get up and offer your seat to one of the legends. That was bad. That was a no-no because you didn't pay for your seat anyway. The company paid for your seat. So, but not everybody can be in first class. But some people just got the lucky draw. Sometimes a referee would get a first class ticket, and they as soon as legend would come by and they'd hear, "Where's your ticket? I'll go sit back in the back," so that you'd learn in a hurry what the wrestler's law was. You don't tug on
Yeah,
feet,
it's about respect.
you don't spit in the wind, and you don't disrespect the sarge as you were. And that's an order.
Dad, will you give Gaz a thumb kiss?
Who?
Gaz, thumb kiss.
What's
Gaz,
that?
that's who you just read his comment. Gaz.
Oh, okay, yeah. I like that comment. There you go, Gaz.
Thumb kiss for Gaz. There you go, Gaz. So, is there anything else that you want to talk about as far as AWA goes? I know that there's so much that we can talk about, but we're already past 2 hours, and we can talk about like all the DX stuff and Commissioner Days on another show.
Right, right. Yeah, I'd just like to say that I'm going to be in Fayetteville, North Carolina this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. All the hoping that I was kind of a little worried there that with the Israel and all the things that were going on over there with the Iran shooting some missiles over there, that all my fans were going to be going overseas from Fayetteville. All the Army
Oh,
personnel.
wow. Yeah, because it's
Sounds
Fort
like it's
Bragg, right?
yeah, sounds like it's okay now. Sounds like they're kind of staying neutral right now. So maybe we'll have a pretty good crowd there. If you're listening and you're from Fayetteville or you're at Fort Bragg or just living in Fayetteville, come see the Sarge and join the Sgt Slaughter Cobra Clutch Club and earn your challenge coin. You can't buy it; you got to earn it. That's right. But I had a good time.
So funny story. Yeah, that'll be fun. There's a home video of me
Okay.
dancing to your album,
Oh, really?
your Cobra Clutch song,
Hmm.
and you always say the Cobra Clutch like this, Cobra
Cobra
Clutch,
Clutch. Yep.
Cobra Clutch like this. And then in the home video of me, I'm like 4 years old. I'm going like this, the Cobra Clutch.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm sure
Oh my goodness.
everybody knows that you won that contest at the Poconos with the Michael Jackson song. You were a big star back then.
Yes, yes, I did win a contest by singing and dancing to Michael Jackson Bad. Ryan, good night.
Good
Good
night.
night. Thanks for joining us.
Yes. Lights
Dad,
out.
yes, Rosie Riveter.
There you go. Like it, Spartans. Spartans. How do you like mine?
It looks better like this though, because you can see the indentation.
Oh, look at that. Look at them guns. That's quite the rack there, gun rack. Look at that. Holy cow. You've been working hard.
Yeah, I've been working hard. I this is the shoulder that I hurt, so I really haven't been working my upper body that hard.
Yeah, well, you just
Um,
don't use such heavy weight for a while.
well, I am strong and I
Yeah,
can lift heavy things.
yeah.
But I know I don't need to lift. I know. I know. I know. I don't
47,
need to lift
that's for
her.
sure. AK 47.
Yeah, my AK-47s. That's right. All right, Dad. Let's say goodnight to everyone. Thank you everyone for
Yep.
joining us. We are going to
Yeah.
go out with Sarge dismissing us though.
Yeah.
So thank you everyone for joining us. We will figure out our next date for our podcast. It'll be in May sometime.
Yeah.
We're trying to do them once a month at least.
Until then, if you see me in your city or town, come by and say hello. And you never know when Slaughter daughter might be there. So don't miss out on seeing her.
Never.
You got Joe Fest coming up again too in June. So that should be another big turnout. And I ran into this past show in New Orleans. I met the original Batgirl from the
Oh,
Batman TV show. What a wonderful, beautiful lady. Karen was her first name. And
wow.
we had a lot of fun. And the fellow that did the artwork for all the turtles was there. And boy, we just had so much fun laughing. And of course, Dean was my punching bag. Every time I would want to say something, I said, well, you know what Dean said? Or Dean told me this. And they all got quite the kick out of that. So anyway, until we meet again, happy trails to you. And always remember to keep your chin up, your chest out, and never, ever let your enemy eat your breakfast, and that's in order. Now you know.
And knowings.
Half the battle. G.I. Joe. Look out, Cobra. Coming after you. Got a bunch of new figures coming out too, but I can't tell anybody yet. Swore to secrecy. But they're going to be big. Real big. Yes. Looking forward
If
to it.
you have any bookings or you want an autograph or you need something signed, this is the person you want to talk to right here, Paul Inserto. He is the man to get in touch with. Not me. Not me. You message me. I'm going to give you Paul's info. Okay. All right, Dad.
All right. Love
Tell
you.
them they're dismissed.
Love you all. Love you, Cal. Give
Love
hugs
you
and
too.
kisses to my grandchildren. And I wanted to ask you one thing before you go. Who did
Yes.
all the work here at the slaughterhouse? I see some of my things that were laying down on the ground are now upright. Must have been Derek. I have.
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. Well, it must have been him if you didn't do it. Nobody else would have done it.
It was not me.
Well, I still owe him too from the football.
I mean, yes, it was me and I worked really hard and you owe me a lot of money for doing it.
Oh, okay.
And
Sorry I brought it up.
I do appreciate you noticing all of my hard work and I'll expect that check in the mail.
Love Nashville.
Or cash.
Yeah.
I'll take cash
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Good
Cash
night, Nick.
anytime.
Thank you. Awesome show. Had a blast. Sweet
Good night,
dreams.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night. You got to dismiss everyone, Dad.
You are dismissed. Move out. Move, move, move. Lights out.
Slaughter daughter, the badass bitch.